This is Double Down. Double Down is a 1991 3500 dually crew cab diesel four-wheel drive, and it is amazing. I purchased this a few months ago from a gentleman out in Michigan, and I bought it sight unseen. Now, I do have a little bit of experience with these trucks, so I kind of knew what I was looking for, and I thought that would make a good video for you guys today, going through my thought process, my checklists, as I'm looking at buying a truck, and when I get a truck in here, how do I go through figuring out what needs to be done first, what repair should be prioritized, what that noise is or what that rattle is, how I solve these issues, how I progress through them, how I undo previous owner upgrades, and things like that. Give you guys basically some tools in your toolbox to tackle basic maintenance on your new used truck. So let's go get it. Merricks Garage. Now, there's going to be a wide range of mechanical completeness when you buy a used vehicle. So for the sake of argument today, we're not talking about buying a project that is just a complete mess. We're talking about you bought something that it's registered, it runs, it drives, it stops, it goes. It's not perfect, it has quite a few problems, but it at least is functional. It's a completely different topic to start talking about what to do when nothing works. So the way and this is exactly how Double Down was when I got it. Truck was great. It drove. I drove it down off the transporter. I took it on the freeway straight away. It worked. It started. It stopped. Well, it stopped kinda. And I didn't have any major issues that I needed to deal with immediately. Now, I knew there was some work to be done because things weren't quite right, and that's what we're going to focus on. How do you break down and prioritize what needs to be done first, and then when these problems are in front of you and you don't really know what's causing them, how do you figure out what they are? That's the focus of this video today. So first and foremost, before you begin anything, make sure that your junk stops. Stopping and not hitting things is good. If you can't stop and you hit things, you're just going to make your truck worse. So for the sake of those around you, make sure your taillights work, make sure your brakes work, and make sure your steering is at least somewhat responsive. Maybe it might be a little bit vague, but it still works. With that in mind, the next things I really look for are do I have functionality issues? Do I have something that just plain doesn't work? If it doesn't work and the vehicle still drives, I'm not going to sweat it right now. That is a project for a later time. If I'm driving and the truck just isn't quite right, I start listening and smelling, but listening mostly. Am I having repetitive noises? Am I having heavy duty clunks? Am I having light rattles? Am I having vibrations? Those are the things that I pay attention to in the beginning, because those are going to tell me if something is loose or is broken, and I can start building my detective case to find out what the issue might be. So you got a couple rattles, you got a couple clunks, you got some thunks and some vibrations. Focus on the heavy stuff first. Focus on the large noises. If you have a heavy clunk that only comes when you go over a speed bump or hit a significant bump, that's what you should be paying your attention to, because that is going to be indicative of something big being either loose, coming loose, or broken. So I try and find, is there a clunk? Is there something that is not right? And out of that clunk, is this clunk a repetitive noise? Is it a rhythmic noise? Can I tie it into something else on the vehicle? Like, does it happen when I turn? Does it happen when I accelerate? Does it happen when I brake? All these little things just go into the vault so that when I get back to the shop, I can start making a more educated guess as to what might be the problem. So heavy-duty clunks. If I can identify an area of the vehicle that I think they're happening on, I'm ahead of the game. If not, I'm going to dive under the vehicle and I'm going to start looking for witness marks. I'm going to start looking for areas that there's been movement where there shouldn't be movement. If you have a filthy vehicle, if you've got an old truck that's got a lot of oil residue and dirt underneath, look for an area where there isn't dirt. Look for a shiny part. Look for something where the metal has been rubbed down to polished steel and hasn't corroded yet. Those are all telltale signs that something's moving. Witness marks could be anything from disturbed dirt to a path of oil to actual metal shavings. It can come in a variety of things, but once I can determine what might be causing that rattle, or I can find an area that doesn't quite look right, I'm one step closer to figuring out what it is. This is particularly helpful when dealing with the big, heavy-duty clunks, because you're gonna get back to the shop and let's say it's your motor mount that is gone or is going. You're not going to be able to recreate that noise. You're not going to be able to like move the motor and make it rattle again. So you're going to have to use your smarts and look for those witness marks. Witness marks will tell you a ton of stuff. They're crucial, but they're not the only tool in your bag. Let's get into some of the other tools I use to make sure that I slowly check through all the problems and resolve them in a safe, orderly fashion. So you got lucky and you purchased a used vehicle that doesn't have any significant noises or rattles. Well, congratulations, you are one step ahead of the game. But let's just say that something still isn't right. It doesn't have the power you think. It's pulling to one side or the other. You get off the gas and it immediately slows down too quickly. You got to start using your other senses, and most notably your nose and then temperature differentials. Now the nose is going to be a refined skill, but start familiarizing yourself with what coolant smells like, what transmission fluid smells like, what brakes smell like. You get to know what the smells are, and then you can sense when they are out of, let's say, operating range. There is a very noticeable smell when brakes are overheating. There's a noticeable smell when vehicles are overheating. And then the other thing that I really use quite a bit is, and this is one of the few tools that I'm going to use when I'm first diagnosing or trying to troubleshoot a vehicle. It's a temperature gun. This is just a $20 infrared temperature gun. You point the laser dot at something and it tells you the temperature. Now, I don't use this as a very specific tool to tell me exactly how hot that is, but I use it to find differentials. I use it to find outliers. If my truck isn't driving properly, if it's pulling to one side, I'm going to get out and I'm going to temperature gun the brakes. All four corners. Do I have a brake caliper that's sticking? Do I have a rotor that is exceptionally hot? If one rotor is measuring 200 degrees and the opposite side is measuring 100 degrees, well, then you've got an area of concern that you can start peeling back the layers and finding the problem. So hopefully you see so far that this isn't really pulling stuff apart to find issues. This is more of just an awareness of what the vehicle is telling you. All these problems will slowly start to reveal themselves, more on that in a bit, but if you keep a running inventory of what you're dealing with, i.e., the truck is running really hot, I can smell it, I'm not losing coolant, but something's going wrong, boom, I'm going to temp gun different areas of the vehicle. Now what that can tell me is if I find a hot spot on an exhaust, like let's say I temp gun a manifold and cylinder number 8 is 350 degrees and cylinder number 7 is only 200 degrees. Once again, I've got an area to focus on, and that is another piece of the puzzle as I'm trying to figure out what might be the bigger issue. Hey, now would be a good time to click that subscribe button down below if you have not. And also, check it out. I got new swag. This is the latest Merricks Garage logo, and I put it on a bunch of different hats. They're all awesome, and they are all available in my store, merricksgarage.com, along with my seat racks, light racks, shirts, sweatshirts, stickers, and all that good stuff. So if you're looking for something for that special someone in your life, get them some Merricks Garage swag, and they will love you forever. And don't forget to subscribe. So you got some big clunks, you got some little clunks, you got some electrical stuff that doesn't work. Where do you start? Well, as I mentioned earlier, make sure that the safety stuff is already fixed. Make sure you have brakes and tail lights and things that will get you pulled over or get you dead. After that, I like to really just familiarize myself with the truck. Drive it regularly. If it is a running, driving vehicle, drive it. Oftentimes, problems can resolve themselves when you use the machine. The machine likes to be in motion. It likes to have heat cycles. It likes to have fluid pressures and all the things that happen when you drive a vehicle. And so sometimes if you've got a truck that's just not running right, drive it for a week. See if that problem goes away. See if that oil leak stops. And if it does, move on. Don't spend too much time worrying about that. Oftentimes, things can leak when the parts that are leaking haven't been seasoned for a while, meaning they haven't heat cycled up and heat cycled down and heat cycled up, heat cycled down, and basically not fused, but tightened up tolerances. Now, ignoring issues is not always the way to go. If you do have a problem that is haunting you, that is affecting how the vehicle drives, obviously, let's pay some attention to that. But if it's something that isn't really affecting how the vehicle performs, don't worry about it right now. Drive the vehicle. Get to know its idiosyncrasies. Does it behave this way when it's cold? Does it behave this way when it's hot? Does this hesitation in the throttle happen on freeway speeds? Does it happen on surface streets? Is your steering always loose and wobbly, or is it just when you're doing tight turns? You have to pay attention to all these little things so you can start building up information that is going to allow you to pinpoint where the problem is. So let's give you an example. This transmission. The transmission in this truck has been slipping. No, it's not slipping. It's vague in terms of what gears it goes into. Now, I didn't notice this immediately. I was on the freeway the first time I drove it, and I noticed that it seemed to be running high up in the RPM. Now, this engine's quiet compared to my Cummins, and so it was difficult to really tell if overdrive was working or if torque converter lockup was happening. This happens to be a 4L60 in here, so I know that it has that torque lockup. And after driving it, after really paying attention to it, I started noticing that first and foremost, my gear shift did not seem to be able to get into the right gear. So if I thought I was in neutral, I was most often in reverse. If I thought I was in first, I was most often in second. Bunch of stuff like that. So that directed me to take a look at my linkages. The linkages from the column shift right inside to the linkage down on the transmission. Did I have excess slop in there? Did I have worn out bushings? Did I have anything that could contribute to this really sloppy feel? And lo and behold, I found out that that's exactly what I had. The bushings that linked all of the linkages together had worn out, and so stuff was just slopping in there. So while I thought I was putting it into gear, I actually wasn't putting it into gear. Now, it did turn out that I have an issue with one of the solenoids in here, but I wasn't able to determine that until I had resolved other issues that were kind of clouding that issue. So resolving the shifting issues in terms of mechanical linkages, physically making sure that that linkage is tight, allowed me to then put that problem to the side and go, okay, what am I dealing with now? I know it's not the shift linkage, it's got to be something inside the transmission. And I was able to narrow it down, so I was then able to pull the pan, test some solenoids, figure out what my issues were. So make sure that you're working through your problems methodically. Check things off, and as you do this, you're going to find that a lot of the stuff that you did earlier in the truck will have affected something else, and problems that were plaguing you in one area may be fixed by fixing something in another area. I hope this is all making sense. I know it's really kind of vague, but the takeaway should be pay attention. Pay attention and just keep a running inventory of noises, of problems, of rattles, of functionality that's not working. when these problems happen, what conditions elicit them, and with all that big picture, you can start building an idea of like, okay, do I have a big electrical problem? You know, like my wipers don't work, and only one headlight comes on, and the reverse lights don't work. You may be troubleshooting these different areas without recognizing that there is a common problem. I can already see the comments right now. You guys are thinking, oh, wonderful, James, great video, but you didn't show me how to do anything. You didn't show me how to resistance test a solenoid or to bleed brakes. And you're right, good job, I didn't. I have plenty of videos on my channel that show you the tech that you need. This video is to give you a mindset to troubleshoot, to take a unknown vehicle and start to prioritize the issues that you find in that vehicle. Safety, first and foremost. Get your taillights working, get your brakes working, get your steering working. Big, massive oil leaks obviously require your attention, so find what's going on with those. Heavy clunks, something catastrophic, something that causes you to go, oh, that does not sound right. Take a look at those things. But don't get so hung up on those issues that you don't drive the truck. Oftentimes, driving the truck is the best thing you can do for it. It'll heat cycle everything, it'll bring fluid to everything, it'll tighten up everything, and the problems that are real problems will reveal themselves. If you go drive the truck and you happen to have like a significant problem in the drivetrain, it won't be long before you realize exactly what that problem is when your drive shaft yeets itself out in the middle of the road. But don't worry about that. Don't let that stop you from experiencing your truck, enjoying your truck, creating memories with your truck, and using the truck while you purchased it. So take away, be safe, take copious notes, whether mental or on paper, be patient, and put the appropriate amount of importance on each issue. These things run and run and run. It might be annoying that there is a rattle, but don't worry about it. If it deserves your attention, you will know soon enough. I hope you guys found this video useful today on the mindset of how to track down issues, how to troubleshoot, how to get to the bottom of things, and how to prioritize your tasks and challenges in front of you. I do have a lot more videos on my channel that do get into more detail about how to do these things, so make sure to just go take a look at the channel and search for videos that you need help on, because I've put a lot of stuff out there. Make sure to give me a subscribe, a like, drop me a comment down below about what you're working on, and if you have an issue that you can't solve, throw it up there and let's see if we can troubleshoot it together. We'll see you soon. Merricks Garage.